Oi oi, it's your boy, Slacky J, and this hoss of a gentleman is Linton Vassell, who I often talk about for his brilliant ground and pound, gets on top of people and just batters them into a puddle. But today I thought it would be interesting to talk about some of the weird stuff he does from the bottom. Linton's kind of an interesting guy because he comes from Milton Keynes, great town, or is he Milton Keynes and he comes from Linton Vassell? But British guy, came through the British scene, disappeared to America in like 2015, and was largely trained at like Black Zillions, Extreme Couture. There's big Neil Melanson influence there, but he also did weird stuff before he went over there. He was using the Dagestani handcuff stuff along the fence in like 2013, which is before Habib was even really focused on fence work. He's always been interesting. And as you can see, he's now massive. But we're going to be talking about stuff he does from the bottom today. So what you need to know about Linton. Massive dude. Terrible striking, terrible wrestling, pretty bad cardio. But awesome on the mat. Top or bottom, very interesting guy to watch. Here he is attempting to take down Ryan Bader, which goes about as well as you would expect. Lat drop. Now, he works his way back into half guard. Bader sort of accepts it because, he's Bader and being in half guard's quite good for a wrestler anyway. What Linton Vassell does a lot from the bottom is play a Z guard. That's once he gets this knee inside of Bader's hip. It's a form of knee shield. It's a form of knee shield half guard. And it does wonderful things for Linton Vassell. So I'll just speed it up a bit here because it takes a while. Knee starts coming in. I'll show the cool move first and then we'll talk about it. Yeah, there we go. Now, this is something that Vassell does all the time. I'll slow it down. He gets his knee too deep. This here. If the knee's all the way across, you've gone too deep on your knee shield. And it means that this guy's weight can crush your knees together, making your guard very ineffective. But what it can do is encourage him to go around this way. Oh, that's a terrible colour. Matte. That's a terrible colour matte. It's not my fault. He goes around this way, and then his weight's going to come off this knee, and you're likely going to be able to hook him with this foot. And as he runs around, Vassell's knee comes up, he leans back to the floor, and he whips Bader over that way, and he starts getting up. Now, that might look like a freaky spaz out move, just work because Linton's a big guy, but he does it in almost every fight. Here he is, bottom butterfly guard against Bader, gets on his side, watch his left knee, not far too far through, his knee's now on the wrong side for a regular butterfly sweep of any kind. He also sat up and he swept his arm over his head to try and bundle him down to the floor this way. This is almost identical to the position that Ricardo Lamas used to use all the time, and which Craig Jones now teaches in seminars. The reverse knee shield is what I think he calls it. I used to call it the get the fuck up guard, but Lamas always gets up to his elbow or hand first, this one, and then the guy pushes back into him and he launches them overhead. Vassell, in this case, if you watch him, his knee's going to go to the other side of the body and his arm's going to swoop over Bader's head at the same time. Boom. Unfortunately, Bader's head comes out. But this is the interesting part. The whizzer. Because if Bader starts coming around to his left, to our left, looking at him now, in a second. Might stall for a bit first. But yeah, look how far through this knee is. Knees are pinched together. He's not attacking anything from there. But he is doing a decent job of controlling this hand, which is what you're going to see from Vassell constantly. Controlling this hand instead of focusing on this arm. Starts to sit up. Bader starts to run around, gets caught on the foot, and hoofed over the top, and exactly the same thing unfolds. Vassell gets up and tries his luck at trying to take Bader down. So it's something he does all the time, and it links in with his Z guard generally. So this is Z guard. It's a half guard, so that bottom foot is through there, hooking over Bader's right leg. Top knee is inserted in front of Bader, and you'll know that all the battle in half guard is to get this underhook here and for Bader to have this underhook here. Now Bader has the underhook, and Vassell's not contesting it. He's locked an overhook across the top. But what he's doing is on this side, he's constantly fighting Bader's hand, which stops him from getting hit an awful lot. Still gets popped because it's still MMA and he's still on the bottom. But, oh yeah, Bader goes over there. He was about to try that sweep again. Bader gets caught and then he just sits to the other side half guard. So he's gone from one side half guard to the other side half guard. But to show you it without the cool sweep, without the reverse butterfly sweep, Vassell puts himself into half guard there. Top knee comes in. This hand here that is busy punching him, because Moldavsky is staying low on this side. He's not going to punch him with his right hand, because if he comes up to punch with his right hand downwards, he's going to give up the underhook on that side. So everyone stays low on this side and tries to punch with what is the left hand here. Vassell gets both hands on, holds the wrist. This is impressive, this bit, because normally this wrist here, this grip here, you would want to do that thumb down, because you can see where the gap in his grip is here. Moldavsky should be able to just peel it out that way. But Linton's ridiculously strong and has giant hands. But what he's doing here is he's going to put this into the ground. He's going to try and get Moldavsky leaning on it, while he gets his bottom hand up underneath him. So he's up on an elbow. He's got to transfer to just one hand. Up to the hand. Oh, gets pushed back down. Foot's coming across. And there's the sweep, and he's on top. Brilliant. Okay, that wasn't the clip that I thought it was. I was going to show you one where he got straight up from the cross wrist, but you can see how that plays together. He tries to get up. Moldavsky pushes back into him. Linton's knee comes across to the wrong side. Moldavsky circles round, and you can already see he's going to launch him here. Boom. Straight into top position. Lovely stuff. Here's the clip I was looking for. We're in the Z guard. Left knee is keeping Moldavsky back in half guard with the right foot. Both hands on. Gets up to one elbow. See, look, he's holding this. Most people, me, normal people, would be holding that thumb down, but he's freaky strong, so he's doing it thumb up. Has to get this at least to the elbow. He has to get up onto the elbow on this side. Ideally, he wants to get up onto the hand. Top knee's going to keep Moldavsky away. Bottom knee's already free. Starts coming up. And he's out. Cross grip get up. Probably one of the most important moves in MMA that you don't see done right enough. But one of the secrets to it is that Moldavsky is, he's not dumb. He's sitting on this bottom foot here. So this knee has to drive him that way while Vassell frees his bottom foot. So watch Vassell's bottom foot come out. There you go, lovely. Sneaks it through. He could go up to a turtle there, but he just stands up instead. But you can pause in the turtle. You can try and come back in on the guy and shoot on him, actually. Fluffy Hernandez did this the other day against Michel Pereira. And this is like basic half guard stuff. If you do get the underhook on the half guard side here, you can start coming up. It takes a while in this instance. But it's one of those things where it's like, you're gonna have to fight your way back to a position of better control. But that's standard half guard stuff. No one's gonna let you have the underhooks easy. So one of the interesting things is that Linton ends up playing this Z guard against the fence, sort of sitting up. So he can't properly sit up. You can see his body's sort of an angle here because this knee has to be in. You can't point that in while sitting like bolt upright, or it's going to be very difficult. You might have really good internal hip rotation. But so he's sort of playing a half guard, but he's sort of sitting up. And if we wind forward a little bit, back to laying down. That's the move. Okay, cool. So what he can do is remove this knee and bring his other knee in as he sits up. There we go. And could get the underhook on this side, but he's actually going to come across and get the cross wrist on this one. So his right hand is going to grab Bader's right hand, and he's going to stand up along the fence. and get to, or I think he gets to his knees in this one. Boom. And this is kind of interesting because, oh no, he shoots back in on Vader. But yeah, he does, he surprises a lot of people like from his knees here, wrestling up, or just pulling the guy's knee underneath him. Unfortunately, Vader is a much better wrestler than him, and he ended up getting finished later in the second round. So here you can see he's been put in the same sort of situation by Moldavsky along the fence. We're in the half guard. Vassell's still got the knee in front of his body here. He's going to sit up this way in a second, but eventually he's going to go back that way with the cross wrist grip. So he's going to free this overhooking arm, grab Moldavsky's left hand, this one over here, and he's going to get up that way. I'll speed it up a bit because it's going to take a second. Sits up. Goes back to the half guard here. Punches that arm through. Now he's on the other side of the head, see? Punches that wrist away. Over here, which gives him room to build up. And this brings us back to the old conundrum of working along the fence generally, because they can just shoot in again. And this is where MMA is at right now. Getting up along the fence, really powerful. There's some great ways to do it. The one that Linton's doing here is really successful for him. And his last fight against Popov, he just does this like 100 times, but then keeps getting taken down again. And Popov doesn't do a ton of damage, but if you don't get points for getting up again. You get points for taking people down, even if they get up. I actually just remembered that after this really cool sweep here, the reverse butterfly one against Moldavsky. There. Moldavsky does something cool of his own, which I think you might see more of in coming years in MMA. So we're in half guard here. Moldavsky is going to reach over the top here and into the thigh, into like a switch position. There we go. Linton's taking this arm out to take pressure off it and to try and punch Moldavsky in the face. So Moldavsky's on like a high crotch here, but on his side, or in like an S-sit. And as Linton goes over his head for a Kimura, he bumps him forward, he gets behind him. Almost comes up on a single, gets put on his back. So it's this bit that's clever. So he's grabbing this leg, Linton starts trying to punish him with a Kimura over the top of the head. He bumps Linton forwards and gets the underhook on this side now. Over here. So this is a really good position to start powering up from. But unfortunately, Linton gets his leg free and steps over and dumps him right back down on his back. But this here, hold on, once he rips his arm out. Arman Tsarukyan used this really effectively against Islam Makhachev when they met way back in the day. Not way back in the day, a few years ago, but in that fight that was back and forward. He's one of the few guys to stop Islam just running his game however he wants from top position. And what he did was he actually butterfly swept him onto this sort of high crotch from his bum. Which brings us on to the other part of Linton Vassell's ground game, or bottom game. Well, actually, we'll do that in a second. I just want to do another, from standing this time, another Linton Vassell overhead reverse butterfly. Only really got him with the knee there. Sweep against Phil Davis, who's obviously very good. But a lot of what Linton does, he's getting beaten up here by Tim Johnson. A lot of what Linton does is grabbing the sort of high crotch here from his knees, which typically is seen as really bad because the guy can just try and wail on you while you're holding onto that leg. But what he does is he's really good at all sorts of positions, dropping down on what John Smith calls I think he calls it an outside dump, which is basically like a low single with your shoulder or head going into the inside of the knee here. I use John Smith there because he's quite interesting because he was the king of the low single leg with his head on the knee. But when you go high crotch and you drop down and then your shoulder goes into their knee, he calls that an inside dump, an outside. He calls it some kind of dump. But Linton doesn't get it here. And he's nearly unconscious here. Tim Johnson just headbutts his way in there. They're just getting beat up. This was in his most successful streak too. A very flawed fighter, one of my favourites, but was never flawless. But if he gets on top, that's the thing. If he gets on top of you, he's just going to murder you. And so here again, he's holding on to that. The single with the head on the outside here, the high crotch, Yeah, there's loads of counters to it. The guillotine is obviously the one that everyone does in grappling, but the cool thing about the guillotine is if you can bait the guy to take it, I would much rather be defending a guillotine with the guy underneath me than getting pounded in the head. So what Linton tries to do in a lot of his single legs and sort of scrambles from the bottom, he tries to put the outside of this knee, like the outside of this thigh and knee, he tries to put them on the floor. And the moment that he does, he goes right down to the single leg here, or the low single leg. But as soon as he gets that thigh on the floor, this is a really good position for Linton. Steps over the legs, just needs to sort of free his arms, and then he's on top. And uh-oh, Dagestani handcuff time. And from there, it was just Linton beating Tim Johnson to death with the nastiest elbows you've ever seen. Yeah, he's like a 260-pound man just dropping his whole weight on elbows. Horrible. Always holding the wrists, which is something I wanted to talk about when I talk about his top game. Like that. Yeah, constantly gripping wrists, passing them behind the head. Very cool stuff. Very ahead of his time. He was doing it like 2015 and really got famous when Gordon Ryan and Craig Jones and people started doing it from mount in like 2018, 2019 in the grappling world. So here's another example. Linton getting dropped and rolling through, doing some turtle stuff. He trained with Neil Melanson for a long time, and you can see the influence on him. But he ends up, bit of octopus there, he ends up grabbing inside that leg again, and he's going to try and put the outside of Moldavsky's knee and thigh on the mat. And look, now he's on top. It's a really simple principle, but it works from everywhere. This is Tyrell Fortune taking him down. Tyrell Fortune, very accomplished. Was he Div 2, Div 1? Very accomplished wrestler. But here, when you're taking the back against someone, if you've got one hook in, if this thigh starts to come down to the floor and they stay on their knees, you got problems. Because they're just going to let you fall off, pull the arm through. Look, now Linton's on top. Uses the knee to break the Kimura grip. And it starts getting bad for Fortune. Here again, Fortune's behind him on the floor. Linton gets the arm back through. Starts coming up. Has the single leg. Pops his head outside. Dumps him on his thigh and the outside of his butt. Again, lovely stuff. This is the thing about Linton. He's like terrible at wrestling from the feet, but great at wrestling as a midget from his knees. Fortune takes him down again. Bit of half guard. Actually gets the underhook this time. Starts coming up. Ends up on the single. Puts his head outside. Dumps him down on his hip again. And returning to the Phil Davis fight. Ends up falling off the back against Davis. Bit of knee shield half guard here. Cross wrist grip again. Goes to the turtle. Davis is doing a great job of holding his wrists here, but he's going to... Look at that. Hyper-extending the leg there. Love this. I'll slow it down. So, Davis is sort of trying to put the hook in. Linton puts his weight onto the knee there. You can see that leg is locked out. And Linton's leaning in this way. Davis falls onto the outside of his thigh. Linton gets that arm through and drives through on a double leg against the great Phil Davis. So 3 things to take away from it. Cross wrist get ups from the Z guard. Reverse butterfly sweep from the Z guard. And putting the guy on the outside of his thigh. Because it works from lots of different positions, but it's a great principle.